Secretary Bobby Kennedy joins us now. How you doing, Mr. Secretary?
I'm very good, Jesse. It's good to be back with you.
Good to see you. So your father, your uncle fought communism hard. How much of a danger do you think this new breed of communism is here in America?
I'm very concerned. I don't think my father and my uncle would recognize the Democratic Party today. And, you know, all the overt anti-Semitism that you see in that party, and that's what it is. Israel is not fighting the Palestinian people. It's fighting a toxic ideology called Islamism, which is a perversion of the Islam faith. And its core belief is genocide of the Jews, not just the Jews in Israel, but Jews all over the world. And in fact, Hamas is overtly genocidal. During October 7th, it killed every Jew. It found men, women, children, and babies. It raped young girls, gang raped them, sometimes till their hips broke. They hammered nails into their vaginas. Their charter says we're going to exterminate all the Jews. And if you look at the Mideast, there is an ongoing genocide against Jews and Christians in all the nations in the Mideast. In 1948, there was 1 million Jews in the Mideast, in the Arab countries. Today, there's about 15,000 left. 20% of the population was Christian, now it's 5%. In Israel, in contrast, there were 150,000 Palestinians in 1948. Today, there's almost 2 million. They're 20% of the population. If Israel wanted to commit a genocide against Palestinians, it could do it in a minute. It's doing the opposite. The Palestinian population is growing enormously around Israel. There are no Jews in Jordan. There are no Jews in Gaza. The number of Christians in Gaza has dropped by about 80% over the past 10 years. If you want to see where a real genocide is happening, it's not in Israel. It's happening in all the nations around it.
And one of the other things that really animates this new movement is taking over the healthcare system. Obamacare, not doing great right now. What do you think would happen if they ran the entire system?
We'd be bankrupt. Obamacare, people don't like being on Obamacare. Patients aren't happy with it. And it is, and it's bankrupting our nation. It's the only people who are doing well from Obamacare are the insurance companies.
Right. And
that's it.
And it's riddled with fraud.
It is riddled with fraud. And, you know, over the past 4 years, our entire agency has become riddled with fraud. We're getting $100 billion a year stolen from us because of specific policies that were adopted by the Biden White House. When my predecessor, Xavier Becerra, came into my agency, there were 80 people who were involved in program integrity, and that's not enough. That's 80 people to make sure nobody is stealing $1.3 trillion that we give away every year in 50 states and 5 territories. He transferred 74 of them out. When I came in, there's only 6 left. When his staff asked him about fraud, because we see the fraud every day, we can stop it. He said, we don't want to be paying attention to fraud. We want to focus on enrollments, enrolling more and more people. So this week, we found 1 million people enrolled in Medicaid who had no Social Security numbers.
Whoa.
So that means those people probably don't exist. It was just insurance companies and brokers stealing from our agency.
Wow. What's new with MAHA? Do we have the new fitness test? Am I going to have Jesse Jr. do push-ups and sit-ups?
Yes, you will. Today we announced that we are reinstituting the presidential fitness test that was started by my uncle in 1961. And then it was, the program was discontinued during the Obama administration in 2013. And our children are now the sickest children in the world. They're the most obese children in the world. The obesity rates have gone from 3% in 1960, and my uncle was worried about that because Europe had only 1%. And he said, you know, the thing that made America great was the beef jerky toughness of the American people that had tamed the wilderness and then won World War I and World War II. And we can't afford to lose that. Well, today, it's 20% of our kids are obese. and 40% of adults, 70% are obese or overweight, and we have the highest chronic disease burden of any country in the world. And part of that is changing our food. 70% of our calories are coming from ultra-processed food. We're switching that over now by flipping the food pyramid. We also have to get people active again, and our kids active. And today, President Trump announced that we're reinstituting the physical fitness test. I was down with all the WWE wrestlers in Atlantic City, New Jersey, at a boys' club with 70 kids doing the exercises with them. And by the autumn, this is going to be in schools all over.
So what kind of exercises do they have to do, and how quickly do they need to do it?
They have to do sprints. They have to do pull-ups, push-ups, and, a whole retinue of other tests.
Oh, good. So they'll be beef jerky tough. I like that. And the farmers are going to clean everything up. We're going to grow really natural, healthy products.
President Trump this week signed an executive order ordering my agency, HHS, EPA, and the NUSDA to scale regenerative farming in this country. We have the 4 best regenerative farmers in the country. In the Oval Office, they alone have converted tens of millions of acres to regenerative farming. It improves yields. It improves profitability per acre of their farms. It opens up foreign markets to their product. It preserves their soils. And we only have 60 harvests left at the rate that we're going because the pesticides and the herbicides destroy the soils. It produces much higher density of micronutrients in the food, and it keeps the farmers safe. Right now, the highest cancer rate in the world is in Iowa.
Wow.
Farmers understand the connection between spraying toxic chemicals on their crops and their own personal health. And, this candidate, Zach Lane, won the Republican primary. He came from nowhere. He's a farmer, and he was campaigning on this issue. So the farmers also are supporting us.
Very good. And you're going to leave the raccoons alone?
Yeah, for the moment.
For the moment. All right. Mr. Secretary, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.